Well, look who it is.
How you doing?
Back in a different way than when I first met you. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
As well. Good to see you. I mean, I'm glad I still get to call you President Tate, even though it's no longer president of my alma mater.
Right.
But
it's true.
I'm glad to see that you're continuing to do what you do best and sow into the life of young people.
Hold up, limitless, take a stomach, got pin in it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant. Way I'm feeling, got me up. On the mission, got me up. Knowing me, I got the key. On the vision, I can trust. Limitless, take a stomach, got pin in it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant.
So the inauguration is today.
That's right. It's very exciting.
Tell me a little bit about how that even happens and how much you have to do with planning it. You know, you'll be announced the inauguration as the president of Rutgers University.
What's exciting, it's like putting on a big wedding in a way. You know, you're marrying that institution and its values, and you're helping them to understand your values. And it's just like a wedding. You have a big invitation list, and you're trying to work out to make sure that the right people who love the university are invited, the governing boards, political leaders, alums. It's really a big celebration. Students, of course, all represented in this. And it's a coming together for the community to say, we as Rutgers, we're committed to its history, its mission, and we're going to come together and fight for that vision in the future.
Well, I mean, this won't be your first inauguration as president of a university. You worked in South Carolina, and then you were the dean, I think, at the University of Washington, St. Louis.
WashU, St. Louis, yes.
Yeah. And so, you know, you've done and been a part of the administration at higher learning universities for, I mean, shoot, most of your adult life. You also did the same at my alma mater, LSU.
Yes, sir.
And it has to be a ton of difference in between being, you know, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and then now here in New Jersey. What are some, at least in your opinion, quickly, some of the stark differences to where the schools are located and how that affects the way you do your job?
I mean, the culture at LSU is clearly South Louisiana. It's its own deal. I try to tell people it can't be replicated. It's a special environment with a kind of culture and excitement that I think is unique to South Louisiana. This is clearly the Northeast. You have the New Jersey grit. Where they're similar, I think both tough people who have to manage wind and water, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that. But how they manage it is a little bit different. You obviously have some pretty large cities here with Newark, where we are right now. Philadelphia is also part of the landscape. We have a campus in South Jersey that sort of buttresses Philadelphia. And then in the middle, and they don't like to call it middle, but it's the New Brunswick, Piscataway environment. Yeah. It's a little different, but there are some similarities. You know, it's a system or family of schools, just like we had at LSU. So in that sense, from a managerial point of view, it's very similar. I'm charged with managing that Rutgers system, about 70,000+ students, larger than LSU's, but similar in nature. This environment, a little bit different just in terms of the academic part of it. It's a tad bit more mature. LSU started in, if I remember, 1860. This school was started in the 1700s, before the Revolutionary War. It has a very, very long history and it really predates the establishment of the country. And so that brings its own flavor, if you will, and its own set of cultural norms. It's a more mature academic institution in that sense, and has done really a great job in terms of its research footprint, almost $1 billion of research. We're working and setting records at LSU. I hope they can continue it. Yeah. We broke research records every year there. Here, it's really well established. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, it felt like, at least in taking over at LSU, there was a ton of work, you were asked to do. I mean, at the time, there were conversations about naming buildings after people who had, let's just say, racially ambiguous histories in who those people were. We also had, different things with diversity, equity, and inclusion that were going on. Like you say, you put a lot of money into the research system at LSU. So it was a little bit different. I do want to ask this question because there was obviously recently an election here. And you were part of John Bell Edwards, his tenure, and then obviously when Jeff Landry moved in, a part of that for a short time as well. How much does the elected officials that are surrounding a university, how much does that affect your job?
That's an excellent question, which I don't think people fully understand and embrace how the symbol systems of the institutions are related, but they shouldn't be deeply impactful in the ways they actually are in real life. Most of the appropriations, if you look at like a place like LSU or Rutgers, you're looking at 20, 30% of your funding potentially coming from the state in terms of general appropriations and capital projects. So ultimately, you have to end up working with the governor and their team, along with the legislative leadership in the state. So being in a good relationship with them is extremely important for any public university president. It's impossible to be successful without that. You saw at LSU some of the things that happened for us. We were able to set record levels of appropriations almost every single year we were there. That came because we had good relationships with the governor and the state legislature. So we had 3 years in a row.
At that time it was John Bell Edwards.
Yeah, so we had 3 very good years there. That 4th year, it overlapped with Governor Landry. While there wasn't a great appropriations, we still did a very solid job that year. And I thought the legislative leadership looked out for us on deferred maintenance and capital projects that we needed to continue, the library being one of them. So I was extremely thankful for the support. Governor Landry obviously signed off on what the legislative folks put together. It was a tough year in terms of there wasn't a lot of money. The prior 3 years, it was much better. So I would say it's very important. Here we just had an election. You're obviously talking to both candidates prior to the election, helping them to understand the value of Rutgers in this case. That's something that always happens. I don't think that many citizens really see that relationship needs to be very tight in terms of at least them understanding what you're doing and why. We brought a business case for LSU every year to the state legislature and to the governor's office. I've treated it like a business plan. You need to understand what LSU wants to be. In this case, in our next session here in Rutgers, we'll do the same thing. Mm-hmm. You need to understand what Rutgers aspires to be, and we need your support. And it's a compact, if you will. The state and the federal government both support higher education, and we have to show that we add value.
I think one point that we hadn't made is you were the first African-American president at LSU. And bigger than that, in the SEC in general. And so it was truly an historic hire for Louisiana State University, but that also in the Deep South comes with some challenges. Did you feel like there was ever any pushback because of your race?
None that you would be told directly. I mean, nobody comes up to you and says it. So, but I had a government relations team. They would tell me, you have a problem with this senator or that elected official. You need to work it out. I never treated it like it was a racial problem. I always treated it as if they had a problem understanding what we were trying to get done. Mm-hmm. In the end, I want to really be clear about something. I felt like with the legislative body that I worked with for 3.5, almost 4 full years, in the end, we started at a place of mistrust. I was coming from South Carolina. I'm from Chicago by way of Mississippi. I'm not from Louisiana. Clearly, for the folks who aren't from there, that was a place of mistrust. Was it racial? Potentially. Was it that they didn't know me? Yeah. Absolutely. And we worked really hard every single day, making the case for why what we were proposing for LSU was good for Louisiana. And the origin of that proposal, while I'm African-American, I clearly, the origin of that proposal was coming from our administration and our team. I didn't want them to see that. I wanted them to see that everything that we were proposing was going to help every single person, parish by parish. And that it didn't matter if they were black or white, they were going to benefit from what we were doing. Yes. And that was, we were going to make sure the ag part of LSU worked well. Every single parish, that. Every extension group in every parish, you could benefit. Biomedical, I didn't care. or I actually cared, rural, urban, I wanted you to have the best healthcare we could provide in partnership with LSU. Coastal, nobody cares, Ryan, when that hurricane comes, whether you're black or white. That hurricane doesn't say, I'm gonna pop your house because you're black, or I'm gonna pop your house because you're white. It just pops your house. So we wanted good coastal research to help people understand that they could be saved by our research. You know, cybersecurity, all the small businesses, no matter who owned them, you know, we wanted to be able to defend them. And I said that kind of proposal, that's race neutral in many respects.
It is.
It is a deal where we can help you. And finally, energy, everybody needs it down there. It's a big part of the economy. We sold that, and I think we sold it well. And in the end, after 4 years of that, I think some people came to understand that Bill Tate cared about LSU, he cared about Louisiana, and he wanted to make a difference for the people of Louisiana. Black, white, Cajun, Creole, you call it, baby, we're with you, right? And that's what I wanted to leave in my heart for everybody to see, that the content of my character in my heart was for the people of Louisiana, and that's it. And so I'm bringing that same passion here to New Jersey, right? The New Jersey grit, our edge. There are people of every walk of life up here, and I believe I have a heart to serve them, no matter what their background is, no matter what their religion or the religious origin that they adhere to. Whatever your background is, Rutgers can be of value to you in the same way that we talked about it at LSU. And that's what I'm most proud of about my life. That's how I was raised. That's what I want to do. Opportunity matters to me. And so I want to see people have real opportunity, and that's the exciting part about this job. I get to do that every day.
And so this is something I need to be educated on. As the president of a university, how much do you have to do with the hirings of coaches? Obviously, we know you're big into administrators, which I want to talk about as well. But dealing with, you know, at LSU, it was Scott Woodward when, you know, you were inaugurated as the president. How much did you deal with Scott and some of the coaching hires that were made?
I mean, clearly, to make it work in the universities that work well, everybody uses that word alignment. You have to have an alignment between the administration of the university, between the athletic director and his team or her team, and the set of individuals who are going to support you in NIL. You used to call them boosters. It's a little more complicated than that now, but the NIL community and the extent to which your legislative groups and the governor's office and the like are all aligned, right? This is the difference between winning and losing. Losers are misaligned. Winners are aligned. If you believe in something and you can execute a plan and you thought about how you want to do it, I'm going to say this because we did hire a head football coach. It's interesting. Most people don't know how we got to that place. We were actually looking for a coach who had portable 10-win seasons at different places over time.
And you're talking about when you hired Coach Kelly.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it was really, that was the metric. Did you have a portable system that could go in and get you 10 wins, which then we know now in our current model, if you can get to 10, you're probably going to make the playoffs in the SEC. That means you have a really dynamic team. If you get to those 10, that was the benchmark for us. Can we get LSU to a natty with that as a framework? And that's how you end up with, with the criteria drives the decision making. We all agreed on that. And then you have a cast of names that you come up with to see if it's going to work out. You don't know if it's going to work out, Ryan. You really don't. You just have to have a plan. So we were aligned on that. We did the same thing in baseball, worked out really well. Same thing in women's basketball. Same thing when we were in competition to keep coaches and making decisions about keeping coaches around. We made those decisions. Some of those coaches won national championships at LSU.
Yeah. So,
yes, you're involved with it. You're also helping to raise money for it. It has to be part of your DNA in the modern era. 50 years ago, maybe not so much. But today, if you're not engaged and involved with it, it's going to be very difficult to win.
So I think here would be my question for you when it concerns LSU and athletics. We win the national championship in 2019. That's before your tenure starts. But you do hire Jay Johnson, who's now won 2 national championships with the baseball team. Kim Mulkey and her success as well. You have gymnastics, which constantly excels. Is an athletic director or an athletic department, especially at a school like LSU, mostly tied to the success of the football team? How much does that success really go into the way that an athletic director's decision-making is critiqued?
Well, clearly in a revenue-generating environment, football is going to generate the most revenue from television. So we back into the business model. You have to have a product on the field that's going to compete. There's another level in South Louisiana and in Louisiana in general about national championships. So there's a desire to consistently win there that doesn't exist in many markets, I promise you, because people haven't experienced it. One team wins, man. Like, you know, in the end of the day, somebody else came in second place. Are they losers?
Right.
You know, put that silver medal in your pocket, right? That's the mindset in Louisiana. You have to embrace that. That's just the way it is. But the first level is, do people have hope that you can get there, right? So can you put a product out that gives them hope that you can get there? And then if you do, that's going to trickle into the revenue generation that you want to get. You're playing those night games, right? You get in the field Tiger Stadium up at night. You don't want to play a 12 o'clock game necessarily, or 1 o'clock game, or 2 o'clock game. You want the night game. That's the cash, because now there's more eyes on. Well, who does that help? You know how it is down there. On a 6:30 kick, 7 o'clock kick, the sideline is filled with what? Recruits from football, basketball, baseball, track, women's basketball, gymnastics. Now everybody gets to see, this is what I'm part of? Oh, man. Now, they haven't even seen what happens, you know, for a gymnastics meet, which is an electric experience if you've never had it, or they haven't seen what happens when Mulkey is filling that place up. It's on fire, right? So once people see all of that, and they can say, I can be part of this, that's winning. And every school needs to set something like that up. So for us, for example, here at Rutgers, it was the Iowa game, night game, electric atmosphere, student section popping, you know, everything's working for you. Now what you have to do is have that experience, and you have to what? Win. If you win,
now you build on it.
Now you're building on it, because I'm now part of the experience as a fan. Because what are we really doing? We're helping a set of fans experience something that they couldn't get if they were just leading their everyday life. Not that kind of euphoric excitement about believing through somebody else. It's a community. It's stunning, really. That's a special part about football and those games. Wherever you are in the country, I'm now part of a larger family of people. We believe in something, and we're fighting for something together. People cling and long for that.
Yeah.
And that's what happens if it works.
Yeah, you know, you were the first LSU president that I ever had a relationship with, that I could text on the phone or call, or even would ask my input. That was a responsibility that I felt honored to have, and also a responsibility I didn't take lightly and won't take lightly in the future. I think that those voices that are kids and young men who walked that campus, played on those fields, those courts, young women as well, I think those voices are important, but it's also so different to hear from someone whose job was truly entrenched in all these pieces of what LSU was and now what Rutgers is. When you take over a job at a university, how do you sort of align your priorities for that new spot that you're in?
I read the history books. So I read LSU history books. Now I'm reading Rutgers history books. Everything I can get a handle on to understand the people, their culture, their traditions. I don't believe a president comes in and changes the culture and tradition. I think the president comes in and respects the culture and the traditions, and then attempts to figure out what are the spots in which that culture or that tradition can be used to accelerate the institution in its priorities. And all of us have very similar priorities. I mean, you know, the ones I gave you for LSU, ag, biomedical, coastal, defense, energy, it's the same in New Jersey. We have ag, it's just not sugar, we have blueberries and cranberries.
Yeah.
We still have to be good at that. We still have people dealing with cancer here, right? And we need great biomedical science. So that stays a priority. There's a big coast here. There's some water real close to this place called New Jersey, New York, quarter. Yeah. It's a little different water than we have in, South Louisiana, but I still have to be able to think about how we're going to protect people with that. Small businesses are starting. We still need great cyber. Energy is a big deal in New Jersey and Louisiana. We're still talking about the same type of science and research that we have to work on. But what's going to be different? Here maybe the biomedical corridor is a tad bit more developed than it was in Louisiana. So I need to accelerate that and really press the gas to go hard for that, because we have so much here in terms of companies and research, $1 billion worth of research at Rutgers, most of it in the medical sciences and biomedical. So I have to leverage it. And that's how you do it. If you think about the history of the place, respect it, build on it, accelerate. And that's the way I think about it. Always read the history. Many presidents I talk to don't know the history of the institutions they're managing. I'm thinking, what are you thinking?
Right.
You should have known that when you were interviewing. Let alone when you come in and you say, oh, is that what happened, 50 years ago? No, you need to know that now, because those things keep repeating. There are very few new things happening. It's always repeating. Ignorance of history is the mother of invention. You've got to know your history.
I love that. So much is also put on the board of administrators when we're talking about these universities, right? That board for you did switch when Jeff Landry was elected. And there are people on that board who were huge donors to his campaign as well. And along with you leaving, there were, 2 other high-ranking African-American officials who have left LSU. How much, I guess, effect and power does the board have when it comes to the president of a university? And let's just talk specifically at LSU, because you dealt with a transition there.
Right. So the alignment that we talked about in athletics is very similar to the alignment you have to talk about administratively and politically. And the extent to which you can maintain that alignment is really going to dictate your tenure and how long you're going to be successful at an institution. Quite clearly, we had a shift in political philosophy. That comes with consequences. And what you have to attempt to do is mitigate that as best you can when you're the leader of it. And you're constantly asking your question. And because I know there are young people who watch your show, I want to say something to young people. In the end, when you're a leader, one of the things you always have to ask yourself when you're a leader is, how aligned am I with the company's philosophy and what's governing the decisions that are being made? If you're really well aligned, you're going to be successful, just like I talked about in athletics. But when it comes to time when you're not aligned, then you ask yourself some hard questions about your professional growth. I'm not aligned. Is this going to work? If it's not going to work, you can't complain about it, because that culture and philosophy is going to persist. You just have to make some decisions about what you're going to do with your time and your assets, which is your talent. In the end, if you're honing your skills and your talent, the market will respond to it. So I always tell young people, be great at what you do, because you don't know when that political or governing philosophy will become misaligned. And you need to go into the market to find out your value. That happens every day. Yeah. So when you go in the market, you find out, I actually have skills and assets. Someone else might want my skills and assets. Mm-hmm. Be willing to open yourself up to that. It's okay. And that's what I had to do professionally. And it's okay. Do I love LSU? I always will love LSU. Did I go into the market and find out what my skills and assets were worth? I did. And I was fortunate that another institution of very high quality said, that person has skills and assets they can contribute to us. And here we are today.
I love that.
In New Jersey. Right?
I love that.
And that's what I want young people to understand. Can't raise your hand and complain about it. You have to say, I'm going to be great wherever I can be great.
Mm-hmm. If you are still the president of LSU, where do you fall in, I guess, how would you have fallen in whether or not Scott Woodward should still be the athletic director? Because in this, I'm gonna give my opinion before I even ask you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I believe that Scott Woodward did an amazing job at being the athletic director at LSU. I believe he focused on all sports as much as you could focus on all sports. I believe he cared about the university. I believe the university was important to him. It wasn't just a stepping stone job. And for what all the people's complaints are about new hires, right? They don't want someone to see LSU as a stepping stone. They don't want LSU to just be another piece of a resume. They want it to be the priority, right? Or they want it to be the pinnacle of a resume. I felt like Scott Woodward exemplified and was the manifestation of all of those things. And I do get where you may have missed or where Brian Kelly doesn't work out, but I feel like the intention in hiring him was the correct intention. I believe Scott Woodward should still have his job. Where would you have fallen as the president of LSU on that?
So history matters when you're making decisions on personnel. So let's look at the history. That year when I arrived, we had a sub 500 season in football. I think we barely had enough players for the bowl game.
Yes.
It was tough. I respected those men who went out there and did that. We had to make a decision on a hire. I think the process was excellent. It was not a lot of noise with it. It was really well done and aligned. When we announced it, what do we expect? We expected that we would get 9 to 10 wins and be able to compete. Didn't expect the Heisman Trophy winner, but we got one. Mm-hmm. Didn't expect to see that Kim Mulkey was going to turn around a sub 500 program and in the second year of her tenure, win a national championship. Did not expect, but we got because we hired an outstanding coach. In the 4 years that I was president of LSU, we won 2 national championships in baseball. Didn't necessarily expect that the gymnastics team would pull off one of the most spectacular and memorable moments in my life when I saw that balance beam with Leah Finnegan and that crew. That was unreal. And if you were there and you love sports, that's what sports are about. Every single program, if I recall, was in postseason, barring one exception, where we actually were dealing with some really retribution from the NCAA related to that particular program.
Sanctions in men's basketball.
And so it was a very difficult situation to turn around. But every other program, really hit their stride, golf, et cetera. Everybody says it's only football, but we did have some exciting moments. I do remember running on the field beating Alabama and watching Jaden Daniels and his folks to Mason. So there were moments there. I think Scott is one of the best athletic directors in the United States of America. The real question you ask yourself, if you were going in the market, are there people who are better than him? You're not going to have a list of people who are readily available and of that standing. And so I personally think Scott Woodward is one of the best athletic directors in America.
I agree. Now, you know Verge personally.
Yes.
I've known Verge, for more of my life than I haven't. I met him as a 17-year-old. He was the head of the academic department, actually, when I got to LSU. He's now the new athletic director. For people who don't know Verge, and I would have to guess that most people in Louisiana do, what are some of your thoughts on your interactions and relationship with him now that he takes over as the athletic director? So
I worked with Verge for 4 years. Obviously, he was deputy athletic director, but he also had an appointment in the president's office. Many people don't know that. Mm-hmm. Part of his job was working directly with me for a 4-year period. So I'm not speaking on hearsay. For 4 years, Verge was a trusted leader in our administration, offered excellent counsel to me, a person who, like I said, from Chicago by way of Mississippi, needs to come to understand the people of Louisiana. Verge, a New Iberia man with long-standing history there, was able to provide me the kind of counsel I needed to understand the history and culture of the people of Louisiana, because he has great respect for that. I thought he was wise in his counsel. I consider him to be a very talented athletic administrator who has an inclination around academics because his parents were educators, and he is deeply connected to making sure student athletes earn their degrees. and ascend into opportunities after they leave LSU. He was dead set on that. He lectured me regularly on the need to make sure that every student athlete who matriculated at LSU could finish their degree. They set up programs for that. He would mentor, he would call, he would shake them. And every time at graduation, I saw a student athlete from, years past come across the stage and we get to shake their hand and give them a diploma, I would look at Verge. That was Verge. That was Verge who put that together. And so I have great respect for him. I think it's a great choice. If they're, for whatever they have going there, I've just watched in the news.
Yeah.
But my bottom line is I have great respect and regard for him and wouldn't hesitate to be supportive of him.
You have been, a lifelong educator and now administrator. What do you want your legacy to be when people speak of President Tate? What are some of the superlatives you want attached to that name?
He was a man who was committed to giving opportunity to every single human being that lived in the state in which he worked. It's really that simple for me. My grandmother was an educator. My mother was an educator. My father was an educator. I came from a family of educators. It was always very simple in our household. How can you help someone have an opportunity to learn and grow as a person? And my parents were not a respecter of your background. If you were poor, if you were rich, if you're white, if you're black, if you're Mexican, that did not drive how they wanted you to operate. They wanted you to operate in a fashion that you opened the door as a partner and grabbed the person's hand and help them come across the door, that door called learning, teaching, and being educated. Because I believe that's the foundation of what this country is about. We can't be great citizens if we don't learn. We can't add value from an economic perspective if we don't learn. And so it's just foundational to who we are. So I hope my legacy is that man cared about opening up the doors of opportunity. And he did so in a fashion that was fair, fair, fair.
You mentioned NIL early on in our conversation, and you've been a part of the transition to this entire new era of sports. How much has NIL affected the landscape of college athletics? And another piece of it is how much understanding is needed of NIL for a university to truly succeed in the athletic arena now?
Well, let's talk about the student athlete first. It's a distinctive opportunity that we don't talk about. The realities are, and you know this from the LSU world with Angel, Flage, Olivia Dunn, these are young people who actually came to understand economics and markets. They realized that part of the imagery that they could provide had value in the marketplace, and they organized themselves to leverage it, and it has great economic value for them. How many people 17 years old think about themselves as being part of a business proposition that they could engage given the genius they have in football or baseball or gymnastics? They generally think, I'm just play the sport. They never understand the business part of it. Owners, right? They've been doing this. The people who own, they're leveraging assets all the time. But when you get to think about yourself, I'm actually an asset. I can actually leverage something in the marketplace and add value for myself and my family. That's a different way of thinking. That requires what? Education. They need to understand that if they do these things, they can become valuable in the marketplace, both while they're in school and after. Now, what does it mean for the university? It means that we have to spend time thinking about what partners can we bring to bear to help partner with young people, right? As they grow and understand that they are actually in a market. And we want good partners who are going to help facilitate their growth, help give them financial opportunities, and use their name, image, and likeness in a way that's decent and in order. And I think that's what's different. Normally we say you have to go get a business degree to come understand that. Now you can major in anything, but you better understand that. And that's what's different. And I think it makes people uncomfortable because it is a different way of thinking. The most affluent people in the world have always thought this way. They go to school to learn how to leverage their brand, whether they're going to go to Wall Street or whatever. That's what they're doing. Now we're saying to a kid from a small parish in Louisiana, you have a brand. You don't just run a 4.240. You are a brand. How you present yourself, how you communicate, how you operate, that's a brand for you. You can leverage it if you're successful on your platform here at LSU. Or if you're at Rutgers, you say to yourself, I'm in the most dynamic media market in the world. It's the largest one in the world. If I come here and I play, I'm going to be seen. I can leverage it. I can go in the marketplace and make money for myself and my family and contribute to society. It's a different way of thinking. And I think it requires the degree before the degree. You need to understand that, right? I've watched some videos of some of your colleagues talking about the business aspect of sports. Well, that's what we need to have for young people. They need to come to understand every one of them has opportunity to leverage it in that way.
Yeah, I think that's been, to me though, the beauty of watching a Livy Dunn, a Flage, and now even Angel Reese as she continues to build her brand outside of what she does on the court. When you think to the origin of Angel Reese, it was national championship versus Iowa, interaction with Caitlin Clark. And it wasn't just being able to play basketball well enough. It was understanding the power of a voice and to create that voice and then also feed that voice and continue to learn how to use it in different ways, in different markets, on different mediums, and different platforms. And it has been beautiful to watch her. And even Flage, to now be to a point of understanding the value of her voice, to speak out about things that are outside of sports, to speak up for student athletes at her school in what's going on socially in the world. And I do think the empowerment of the student athlete has been a beautiful thing to watch from someone who didn't have that opportunity. Speaking of just the voices of people, when you have a governor that is publicly critical of what's going on, not only athletically at a school, but for the school as a whole, how much harder does it make the job of the administrators at the university?
Ryan, I grew up in a family, it's probably not different than your own. We had a little saying in the family. My mother was really clear about it. She would say, you know, that was really messed up, but we're gonna keep that in the house. We're gonna work it out. Nobody's gonna know that happened, right? It's the same in governing the university. Mistakes sometimes happen, or there are differences of opinion that is contested. The best way to work it is just like we talk about in our, in our families. Let's handle this family business. And if you handle your family business and work it out, you can come out and you can be aligned publicly later. That's called winning. We know that there are contested ideas, HR issues are contested, political ideas are contested, but we have to work it out as a family and then come out publicly and then share with people where we are.
From my understanding as well, I love that you talked about studying the history of whatever university you become the president of, the administrator of, because that's important, right? Where we've come from a lot of time informs where we need to go. But universities are about the people, right? And the people that you can affect, the people that you can help, the people that support you. How much emphasis do you put on communicating with the people of the university, whether it be the students, the teachers, the administrators, the alums, as to inform your vision of who you need to be for that school?
Well, that's a constant process for a university president. How you decide to do that depends on your personality type. In today's marketplace, obviously social media matters. It's illegal, I think, in Louisiana to use TikTok, but Instagram, X,
really,
YouTube, all these channels, I think you have to have a presence, making clear to people what you value and that you care about the people. And so when I was president of LSU, I attempted to always be part of that. At Rutgers, I think they've been a little thrown, me on X, I say, I will cook you. I mean, they're like, whoa, is that what the president should do? And I'm thinking, well, I'm not gonna say anything that's gonna be detrimental to the institution, but if you come from me, I will help you understand that that's a mistake. And that's okay. I think it's not done maliciously. You have to, it's sport, right? It's a little trash talking, but I enjoy it.
Yeah. So we had, recently we sat with Kevin Durant and we asked him that question. So we said, man, like, you're Kevin Durant. You know, why would you care about what someone's saying enough to respond to him? And his answer was, if you want to know something about me, or if you have an opinion about me, what better person to get your answer from or your information from than me? And I believe that that is something that is valuable because you get to not only create your own narrative, but tell your own truths, right? Which I believe is extremely important. What happens though, because this happened while you were at LSU, when one of those tweets, one of those comments, one of those responses doesn't, at least the way people digest it, doesn't truly reflect positively on you or the university.
And now you have a real pickle. And it's very important that if you're the author of the social media information, you know, you do it in such a way that it's not ambiguous. Now, I know that I have said things sometimes that people might interpret in multiple ways. Partly, if you know, you know. Yeah. But if you don't, you know, you're going to take it in another way. But you do have a responsibility to be as clear as you can. And I do agree with Kevin Durant in that sense. The best way to understand a person is to hear what they have to say, and then you evaluate it yourself. Don't go on hearsay. Don't go on to so-and-so says this person's like that, or they did this. It's the direct. And also go on people's actions. In the end, you know, I hope people judge everything I did at LSU and what I do at Rutgers based upon my actions.
How do you feel your tenure at LSU should be viewed? Do you think it should be viewed positively? Because I do. Let me first say my piece, not that it matters, I guess. I do view it as a positive. I do view it as a success. Do you view your tenure at LSU as a success?
Well, I think our team was excellent. And on the metrics that universities are evaluated on, enrollment, historic highs. So we opened up the doors of opportunity, which is a value for me. In terms of philanthropy related to our specific goals, which were all around our Pentagon ideas of protecting and securing the people of the state of Louisiana, record philanthropy, record appropriations, record research. All that research has a face. And the way I'll leave it to you is this. If that farmer who's doing sugar or whatever they were worked in, sweet potato, doesn't have that record research that we had, that crop doesn't happen. We're feeding people. It's food security. If we don't do the cyber work that we were doing, those small businesses don't have that technical expertise to protect their businesses from outside people who will steal from them. If we don't have the biomedical work or cancer-related work there, you don't have academic medical centers that can serve the people of the state. In some small rural town, they get a call, they're very sick, they have cancer. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to Shreveport in New Orleans and get service from LSU docs. All of that, we enhanced and made better. Mm-hmm. And so I look back on it and say, record-breaking time, and the records are in the faces of the people of the state of Louisiana. Yeah. And like I said, I was there for 4 years. I have an undergraduate degree in being LSU president. And in that undergraduate degree, I think we mastered some things that were very important. And I hope it's built upon and people can continue to leverage it.
That was beautiful. I think the most important thing is you are fair. Education doesn't have a gender. Education doesn't have a color. And there shouldn't be anything that stops people who are willing, who are wanting, and who will sacrifice the hard work it takes to learn so that they can become something that the next generation of their family can not only be proud of, but build off of. They should be allowed to have that. And I thought when you were the president of LSU, you did that. I thought your concern for every constituent, every student athlete, every administrator, every teacher was very evident. And I don't think that had a box you had to fit in. And to me, that's the most important part of doing that job. I'm forever grateful as well for you allowing me to be a part of my school in a way no one else had ever allowed me to in your position. That matters to me, that was of value to me, and in so many ways touched me in a way that 17-year-old Ryan Clark, who committed to LSU while at Archbishop Shaw, could never have thought of. The University of Rutgers is absolutely lucky and blessed to have you. Congratulations on the job. Congratulations on your inauguration, and thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Man,
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, brother. That was great, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, good stuff.
Man, I appreciate you. Yes, sir.
You good now?
Man, always. You know me. I try to stay out of trouble most times.
Hold up, limitless. Take a stomach, got a pin in it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant. Way I'm feeling, got me up. On the mission, got me up. Knowing me, I got the key. On the vision, I can trust. Limitless. Take a stomach, got a pin in it. I fought the head to witness it. Got my people feeling militant. Way I'm feeling, got me up.